All right. Well, we finally have all my engine parts back. Now I guess we'll start with the block. They decked it, recut the counterbores, honed, did a really light hone on the lower sleeve landing where the O-rings sit. So on the block deck, they actually found that front to back, it was 5 thou. It was like laying back at like a 5 thou angle, basically. And so they shaved, and the way it measured from web height to deck height, he didn't want to take any more than 5 thou off. So basically he shaved from the front to the back 5 thou basically down to nothing. So it's flat now. He obviously got a little bit off the back, but he took way more meat off the front than he did the back because the block was milled at an angle. So we're back to that great white motor quality that was starting to show up in this time period of Oliver's history. And close enough's good enough. We need to save money, so just fucking send it out. All the counterbores are cut. Number 3, I can't get the damn... Number 3, he just touched up so that it was square. Basically, they did not cut anything out of 3 because it was low, which means that it was low before they even milled the head. He's got all the sleeves basically set at maximum protrusion, which is 4 thou. He said when he put the sleeve in number 3, it was at 0 protrusion. So I got a sleeve shim set, and there's a 4 thou shim in there. So obviously we'll put all the sleeves in, tighten them down. You go Kinney corner and you put some flat washers and some bolts, and you just put some down tension on them, and then you indicate them and make sure they're all good. But I got a 4 thou shim in the shim set that should put number 3 at the same height as the rest of them. They got pretty much everything cleaned up, except there's still a little bit of pitting around. That should be, because these are push rod. That's coolant. That should be... Oh, that's coolant. That's just a coolant return. So, hopefully, that should eliminate any of our issues. Didn't find any issues, or any cracks or anything in the block, so we're good there. They checked the line bore. Line bore was good. He pulled in the new cam bearings. So we're good there. We could have pulled the cam bearings in, but it was in the shop. They have all the cam bearing pullers and everything to do it. They can pull them in, and if they screw them up, they owe me new cam bearings. If I screwed them up, I owe myself new cam bearings. So if you got all the tools to do it, it's just easier. Let me get these rods. Just sleeve assemblies out of the way here. So here's Conrad's. They reconned them. They had to, obviously I got 12-point rod bolts in them now. So they had to tap the holes deeper for the longer hardened rod bolts. They re-rounded the big end, pulled the bearing, or pulled the wrist pin bushings in, and honed them to make sure that they were true and square, and balanced the rods. There was one rod, and I actually forgot to ask him which number it was. There was one rod that he was scared to take any more meat off of, and it's about 2 grams heavy. But all the rest of them are at 0 difference. That 2 gram rod, and an engine that only spins 2,600 RPM compared to what it was balanced at from the factory, you won't even notice that. It's way better than in factory spec. So the rods are good. Everything's squared away there. The crank balanced out. He said he didn't have to touch anything on the crank. The crank balanced out perfect. Grind shop did a 10-10 grind on it. Everything cleaned up good, so the crank is good. Didn't have to touch the cam. He just wanted the cam to check fit when he pulled the bearings in. There's the old cam bearings. He checked, obviously, when they did the line bore. Teeter, quit licking that. That's not good. So main caps are all squared away, and they pressure checked the head and magnafluxed it. Couldn't find any cracks, so the head is squared away. We're good to put that back together. All the pistons are balanced out. I think he said the most he had to take off any of those was about 4 grams. So all the pistons and rings and all the piston assembly, everything's all balanced out. So the entire rotating assembly is balanced. Yeah, we're pretty much good to go. The only thing I'm still waiting on is I had to have, when I took that oil pump apart, the drive shaft was all scarred up and had some issues with it. So I actually got a pump off eBay that was out of a later tractor, and there's actually some updates to the pump shaft on the later 310s. It actually came out of a 1955. So it's got an updated oil pump shaft in it. Basically, they cut some landings and stuff in it to improve lubrication of the pump itself. But even the shaft that came out of that new pump was a little scarred up. So we sent that out to be ground, chromed, and then reground. So that's the only thing I'm waiting on. It was supposed to be done this week. Hopefully it shows up, because this weekend we're going to go hard putting this engine back together. Because I'd like to have this thing back together and running in 2 weeks. That's my plan. See if it happens. Shouldn't be too hard. Putting the bottom end together is a little time consuming, because you got to plastic gauge everything and check ring gap and yada yada yada, and you gotta be a little tedious about it, make sure everything's in spec, and do a good job of it. So you'll probably have a better part of a day just putting the bottom end back together, but the head, that's an hour tops to put that back together, because everything's good. I just gotta slap it back together. All the parts are cleaned up. So the bottom end is going to be the time consuming part here, just putting it all together, double checking, triple checking, making sure we're all squared away. So yeah, I guess moral of the story, get ready for a bunch of 1950T videos, because we got to get going on this thing and get her back together and back in running shape, because we got to put the engine back together, get it running, get it up to Deere, get it on the dyno, do a break-in run on it, build the monitor mounts for it so I can get the planter hooked up, so we can get the planter unfolded so we can start working on the planter. I found some disc openers and stuff that the bearings are out in or going out. I'm probably going to take the no-till coulters off of it for now, because about half of those, the bearings are out, and at this point, I'm not no-till. There's no point in putting money in to rebuild them. I am going to rebuild them eventually and put them back on just so they're there, but I'm not going to worry about them this year, because I don't want to spend the money on them. But I got to put some disc openers on it. We got to go over the fertilizer system, make sure that, or figure out what I got to do to plumb it up so I can fill out of the nurse tank, yada yada yada. So we got a lot, I guess that's got to happen here before the end of April, and then we still got to finish up cleaning up that field, get all them trees down, or get all them down trees cleaned up and in a pile, and get everything burnt. Get a dozer over there, do a little bit of dozer work. And then I got 60 acres. I got a moldboard plow. We got to get fertilizer spray. These next 3 months, we're going to start getting busy as hell. And then I got the job change. I start my new job on the 14th. Yeah, shit's about to hit the fan. So I got everything squared away on my new truck. She's road legal. The plates are on it. insurance is on it. Title's transferred. Well, title's transferred. I haven't got it yet. It's coming in the mail. I talked to Arnold Lumber today. My barn construction is pushed back a little bit because of all the bad weather we had this last month. Or other projects have got pushed back a little bit. It still should be up in April. He just doesn't think it's going to be the first week of April anymore, which is fine. Is what it is. You can't build, can't fight Mother Nature. There's a barn that they've been putting up. Actually, it's going to be a shop. But there's a barn right down the road here that they started on right after the first of the year, and they're still working on it because every time they turn around, they're fighting another snowstorm. So, but we should be past all that now, so hopefully those guys start catching up. I got my taxes done. Not that anybody cares, but I kind of got that. Uncle Sam really fucked me this year. Well, actually, I kind of fucked myself. I didn't spend nearly enough money. If I'd have known now what I knew then, I'd have spent a lot more money on equipment and upgrades and whatnot. Because I took her pretty hard. Between the massive jump in income that I made off the farm this year and the massive jump in income I made off of YouTube this year, because for anybody that doesn't know, YouTube for some reason refuses to pull income taxes out of your YouTube income. You get the full amount and then you got to work with a tax person. Well, yeah. So, and then obviously the farm, you don't pull any taxes out. But I learned a lot in the last few days about taxes, so now I'm going to start paying quarterly off an estimate and whatnot and try to make it so that 2022 doesn't hurt nearly as bad at the end. I love how our tax system is set up to punish you for making money and trying to get ahead in life. Oh, you're doing good and you're finally getting some stuff paid off and you're able to afford nice things. Fuck you. We're going to take all that money away from you. Thanks, Uncle Sam. Thanks, Joe, for killing all the tax cuts. So anyway, yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to get those trees dropped at my house is the plan. So we're going to have that video for you. And then that's the last outside project I got for the time being. We're going to hit the T hard and get this thing done and back up and running. So like I say, I look forward to a lot of T videos coming up. So anyway, yeah, guess that's it for this one, and we'll catch you guys as the shit show continues.